How's it going?
Fine.
Fine.
It's
Just fine.
Like,
It's just, yeah.
I exist.
Well, at least Biden's won.
Biden has won.
He's done a winner, even though he was behind.
It was,
Which state did he actually win on? Because I feel like it was like Pennsylvania or something.
I think Philadelphia was the turning point. I think it was the tipping point for it.
Okay, so he's even further in front than when I last looked.
Yeah.
So when I looked before, it was 280, next 290. So he must have won.
Bloody hell.
Must have won Nevada.
Yeah, apparently, like half the reason Nevada was taking so long is because Trump was actively suing them at the time they were counting for fraudulent counts, so they had to recount everything again, and then a judge had to approve every single one that had been questioned.
Really?
So that's like Nevada was taking so long. Yeah.
All right, fair enough. Yeah, so I think the only two. See, like, this is what I don't get. So I'm on Google now, obviously looking at it all. And, like, it looks like how they've done it is for, like, obviously the Democrats, it's blue,
Yep.
Republicans red.
Yep.
And if it's light red or light blue, it means to me that it's still being counted. But if it's dark blue or dark red, it's done.
Yeah.
But like Arizona, it's saying that Biden's won, but it's only reporting on like 90% of the votes.
I think it could be that they might have only counted 90, but even if all the remaining were for Trump, it wouldn't change. That could be the difference.
I don't know, because between them two, they've got 3 million votes. And in Arizona, it's only at 90%, and Biden's only, Biden even, is only like 20,000 in front. So I don't trust it. I'm just glad that Kanye West didn't win.
Yeah, that would have been a mess. Like, there was zero chance that it was going to happen. Like, actually zero chance. But it would have been a mess.
So I was watching him on Joe Rogan's podcast like a week or two back, and it does come across as kind of intelligent, but someone that's like, because he's well known for being a rapper, I thought it'd be like quite direct and just getting to the point and stuff.
Yeah.
Nope,
No.
he just fucking rambles, goes on like 20-minute tangent. You're like, I can't even remember the question anymore. Can't remember the question. I don't know what you've just been on about for the last 20 minutes.
Have you not seen the videos of him screaming about Wreck-It Ralph and how he's like that girl in that Wreck-It Ralph? And then someone's like, "Oh, the glitch." He's like, "Yeah, you're telling me I'm not like they don't treat me like I'm the glitch." And literally, everyone around was like, "Fuck you on about?"
I feel like, yeah, that is just him.
Yeah.
Just him all over. But yeah, just doing that podcast and just like, yeah, you do need to be medicated.
Yep.
You're making my head hurt. I'm not even you.
Yeah. Now, there's an interesting thing with regards to the American presidency in that I think the president, when he first gets instated, he has 4 days. 4 days to pass whatever the fuck he wants. Just boom, 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 anything, everything, get it done.
Yeah.
And Obama didn't do anything. He was like, "No, that's not a democracy. That's not how democracy works. Everything needs to be voted on, approved by
the Senate."
Yeah. I think Trump did a couple of things. Can't have been anything like that bad, but
no, I think there was one or two things that were quite bad.
Like,
I can't remember what it was, but I remember there being a couple of things that were quite bad because it went to the Supreme Court.
Oh yeah, the Supreme Court can still deny.
And I think they overturned a couple of things that he did. So I remember there being a lot of memes around it around the time.
The last election does not feel 4 years ago. Like, honestly.
It actually doesn't. Like, if you think like 6 years ago that Donald Trump came out and said, oh, I'm going to be president, and we all laughed at him.
Yeah,
That doesn't seem like.
because last election I was still living with my old housemate,
Yep.
living at the old place. I was not going to Becca yet. In the time between now and then, I have moved house twice and gotten engaged.
That is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Talking about achievements, though, Donald Trump's ruined the country.
Yeah, like.
And so's Boris Johnson, which is even more of a miracle,
Yeah.
considering he's been in half the time, even less.
Oh yeah, it's not even been that long, has it?
No, I think it's been about 12 months, I think.
Oh no, it must be longer than that.
I don't know if it is.
I don't know. COVID has made everything seem longer than it is. Also shorter. Like, for me, like April, March disappeared. Don't know what happened to them. June disappeared. That was my birthday month. That just didn't happen. July, I was back in work, so that went slow. Still in work August, and August disappeared. But then, like September, October just flew by.
Do you not find that though, that like when you're working, you think, oh shit, we're now in November, where the fuck? Like because I'm a key worker, I've not had any time off this year, and I've gone, where the hell's this year gone? Where I've got the next week off, and I know it's going to really draft.
Yep.
Because I've got typical like luck me as well that I'm having a week off, and it's like the first week in the second lockdown that I'm having off.
Yeah. My cousin, he works in Saudi Arabia for BAE, and he arrived the day before lockdown was announced.
Jesus.
Yeah.
How unlucky can you be? So he literally got there and went, oh, never mind, I don't need to go into work tomorrow.
Yeah, no, he came back. Like,
Oh,
he's come
okay.
back to England because throughout the entirety of like COVID happening, he has not been able to take any days off because there's no use in taking days off when you can't do anything. And they've said, look, you've got a month of holidays to take. Just take them while you can. He was like, all right, well, I'll go back to England. I'll quarantine for that couple of weeks, and I can do stuff on my last couple of weeks before I head back.
Yeah.
Can't do fuck all, can he?
No.
He sat at his mum's, fucking miserable.
Pulling out his hair, no doubt, because he's back with his parents.
Yeah, he sat there at his mum's, and his mum's just having a kitchen fitted, so he can't even like cook anything. There's a microwave.
Christ.
I know.
Just the thought of just next week, just sitting in my room, just watching like stuff that I don't really want to on Netflix, terrifies me.
Honestly, I don't. Today I got so bored I went for a long walk. I went for a really long walk, and when I got home, I did a load of housework because I was like, if I sit down, I'm just gonna sit there and do nothing and be sad. So I had to just not sit down.
The worst bit for me is knowing that like the next week, I don't even think I'll be able to go out my room a right lot because my housemate works in the living room taking calls, so I can't even go downstairs from like 9:30 till about 6.
Get yourself a kettle for your room, a little mini fridge.
Jesus me, bloody landlord would have an heart attack. Not allowed a kettle.
A kettle.
A kettle. Not allowed a kettle, a mini refrigerator, nothing. Just have to sit in my room and watch Netflix and play PlayStation. But saying that, I have kind of got into the new Star Trek on Netflix.
Oh, Discovery. Watch season 1. Me having been like very little Star Trek experience, I have watched like the new film. I watched that when it came out. I watched one of the older films, and I've watched like the odd episode. So for me, Discovery was fine. Like I enjoyed it.
I quite enjoyed it, to be fair. I mean, the only real experience, I think mine was quite similar to yours, that I've really just watched the most recent films with Chris
Pine.
Just one of the Chris's.
Yeah, it's Chris Pine.
Just
yeah.
one of the Chris's in Hollywood.
Yeah, it's Chris Pine. He's in Wonder Woman.
Is he?
Yeah, he's
Lovely. Well, yeah, he's one of the Chris's, isn't he?
not one of the Marvel Chris's though.
Well,
He's a
one of the
Chris.
Chris. One of the Chris's.
Not a Chris Pickering though, is he?
No, definitely not. Jeez. So yeah, I've been watching that. I watched the Da Vinci Code. Like
literally no interest.
Wow.
I don't want to watch Tom Hanks lie about history.
I'm fairly certain that one of my colleagues in work the other day said Tom Hanks. It's been revealed that he's been kiddie fiddling.
I don't think so.
I don't believe him, but he says
No.
it's definitely a thing, and I'm like, I don't know if it is.
Tell your workmate he's a knobhead.
Okay.
Yeah.
I will do. Yeah, thanks for
Tell
that.
him I said it.
I'll just get him to listen to this.
Yeah.
You can tell him yourself. But yeah, there's literally like nothing else on Netflix that interests me whatsoever.
Have you ever watched any of Auntie Donna's stuff?
I don't know what that is. So no.
Auntie Donna is a trio of, I believe they're Australian, Australian sketch comics who started on YouTube. And they're just like solidly hilarious, like solid, funny every time. They've got like the way they tend to do it is they tend to theme a series around a theme. Like one of the more recent ones was based around school, so that's teachers or students, and they dress up as teachers or students, and none of the stories are relevant to each other. It's just I'll release a sketch like once a week, and it's pretty good. They've got a Netflix series coming out. At least I think it's a series that I'm excited for because it's hard to explain, but they're just funny. Like definitely worth watching some of the YouTube stuff.
Okay, that might be something that I'll do over the next week then.
And then there's a lot of Christmas stuff coming out. I've got to wait until. I can't do Christmas until 1st of December.
I'm exactly the same.
That is when
I think
Christmas
that's a bloke thing, though. I definitely think that's a bloke thing.
For Becca, it is the 18th of December. 18th of November.
Well, that's such a random date.
It's because September, October, that's like leading up to Halloween. Then as soon as it's not Halloween, it's lead up to her birthday, which is the 17th of November.
Okay.
So as soon as her birthday is done, she's like, oh, it's Christmas now. But
That's
for me, 1st of December.
So who's going to be doing the Christmas decorations? Are you both going to do it?
We both do it. We like my mum is very. She's an arsehole when it comes to Christmas decorations. Like the tree is her baby, has to be done right. She has different sized baubles for different areas of the tree, so it looks as though they're the same size bauble as they travel up.
That doesn't make any sense.
So big baubles at the bottom,
Yeah.
small baubles at the top, so that the amount of space the bauble is taking up on that plane of the tree is the same amount of space.
That does make sense, actually.
Yeah. She has bows as well. Her color scheme has changed over the years. I recall it being silver and red for the longest time when I was young.
Yeah.
When I was not allowed to do anything in regards, I wasn't allowed to put anything on the tree at all. Then it changed to silver and gold. A little tacky for me, but she enjoyed it. And I am generally. I don't mind tinsel. Tinsel's fine. My mum can't stand it. She refuses tinsel. No tinsel in the house.
So apart from baubles and fairy lights, what else goes on the tree? Nothing?
She has.
Oh, on the board, you said the balls.
Glass candles.
Okay.
Glass candles that are very, very tasteful. They're very nice. The tree topper changes pretty much every year.
That is one of like the things that I do love now that I've moved out. The fact that I don't have to decorate anything for Christmas. I despise it.
I like being in a place that is decorated for Christmas. I enjoy it.
I honestly couldn't care less.
You don't like Christmas.
I couldn't care less. I couldn't care less if my house is decorated for Christmas or not. My mum's house is decorated. That's fine. I go there on Christmas Day. Well, I go on Christmas Eve, to be fair. But last year, I don't think it was decorated. The year before, I think housemates decorated it. and the year before that, I don't think there were any decorations.
No,
I
I really like Christmas. Like, really enjoy it.
I don't like it as a whole. I like Christmas Day because obviously you see your family and there's the meal and obviously opening presents and stuff. That bit's nice. I tend to look for little moments in the lead up to Christmas that I like. Like a few years ago, I went into town doing Christmas shopping. I think it was in like the St George's Centre, or one of the shopping centres in town. They put like a piano there,
Hmm.
and as I was walking through town, I think she must have been like a music student or something.
Yeah.
She just went and got on the piano because it was like kind of left there for anybody to play.
Hmm.
And she just got up, sat down, played some music songs, and I quite enjoyed that. I thought that was
Hmm.
nice. And it's little moments like that, little surprises that I do like around Christmas. It's just the 2 month build up that really pisses me off.
That's why I refuse to acknowledge Christmas until a month before, until it is the 1st of December, because otherwise it's too diluted and I don't get the Christmas feeling. As long as I wait, and so like all of Christmas, the build up is that 24, 25 days, I'm fine. If it's too spread out, I get over it too quick. That's why I'm 1st of December, Christmas music's going on.
I can't remember the last time I had a Christmassy feeling. Probably that when I was listening to
Yeah.
that girl, the woman play
Hmm.
the piano on that a couple of years ago.
Yeah,
I
I
don't really
used
get
to.
excited for it.
I used to really enjoy the Christmas markets when I was younger. When I was like, I want to say like 13, 14. Like, first time going to the Manchester Christmas markets, I used to really enjoy it. And then, like, just as time goes by, I go there and I buy less and less. And I realize it's literally the same every year. It's literally the same every other cabin that they have up is selling the same stuff. And I've just stopped caring.
I don't think I've ever been to Christmas markets.
It's worth going once.
I've definitely not been to Manchester ones.
Apparently the other ones, like apparently Leeds Christmas market is really solid. Apparently Chester, again, really, really good. It's just Manchester, you've got the same few pub huts that are up. You've got the same few, like all the food is the same, like just repeated on and on. There's very few huts that they have set up that are like I think are actually spared for people to pay and rent them. I think all the other ones are just set up year after year. It's the same businesses every single time. There's very few like independent businesses that get to have a go at it.
Yeah, that sounds a bit crap to be honest.
Yeah, but I like going to Manchester just to have a wander around because it's honestly just something to do.
Yeah, I think like the things that I do like I said, it's a little bit like going in town with a couple of friends, not necessarily for like a big drinking sesh, but having like like a couple of mulled ciders,
Oh yeah,
so having a bit of a laugh, and then getting something to eat and go home.
yeah. So I quite like there's the Winter Lodge in town. That
Yeah,
is that's a really nice little pub. The mulled wine is very overpriced, but it's nice. It is sadly it's a bit too compact for anything realistically to be done with it
yeah.
this time around. Like they've reopened it, but it's you won't be able to fit many people in there.
Why is that?
It's on Friday.
Oh, okay,
Yeah, it was a clothes shop, like a skatey clothes shop for a while.
right.
I think it's just before one of the charity shops. Like on a corner, there's them, and then corner charity shop.
Okay. So one thing I am kind of going to mess around like the Christmas time and over the next couple of months is going to watch football. I mean, I know you can like watch it on TV and stuff now. Well, you don't. You don't like football, but I do kind of miss going to like football in like the middle of December when it's freezing cold.
Yeah,
Because I think that's just because I grew up with it though. Kind of going with my dad and my brother.
yeah.
We had a season ticket for quite a few years, and it was like especially in like December, January, February when it got really cold. And like midweek games, they are literally the worst ones to go to.
Mm.
but I still, for some reason, have quite a fond memory of them because, like the midweek ones, the kickoff's not until 7:45 at night, so it's getting quite cold.
Yeah, it's
That
already dark,
already
already
dark.
cold. It's gonna be windy. It's a midweek one, so it's not gonna be packed. Can't even rely on like radiant heat from others.
No, like before the game, I always remember like, right, come on, we've got to get ready. Right, so that's like two pair of socks, pair of underpants, pair of shorts, pair of jeans, put my trainers on, like a tight t-shirt, my rover shirt over that, a jacket or a hoodie, then a coat, fucking two pair of gloves on, two pair around, and you like sat there watching like your team against someone crap on a Wednesday night. It's like minus like 3. You're like, this is ridiculous. I love this just because of how ridiculous it is. Because it just wouldn't happen with anything else.
Yeah. Well, I think that's kind of like the premise of this podcast is for me, I wouldn't do that because football's shit and I don't get it. But for you, like you enjoy football for some reason, so you're willing to sit in the cold, like not even having to support your head because of all the massive clothes holding it up.
I think it's one of them. It is funny to see like how, like for me, especially with like, football, how people that have, like myself, that have been brought up with it, I didn't really have a choice.
Yeah.
I was always going to be into football just because my dad and my brother, because I honestly didn't have an option.
For me,
Yeah,
I have been to one football game in my life.
yeah.
It's Preston North End game because I think when I was in like year 5, my class was well behaved for like a month. So we got to go and watch PNE live, and I ate a pie, and the pie was good. I don't know if they won, but the pie was nice.
Yeah, it's weird that like, I think with all sports now, like apart from football, I'm not that interested in them.
I think football is very much an inherited pastime.
Yeah.
I cannot imagine anyone who did not grow up with it getting into it.
Oh, well, my old housemates Jason started getting into it, but I think especially I only know this because of other sports that I've kind of started to get into now. You're not gonna get into it unless you're watching it with someone that's into it.
Yeah, it's not like instruments and music. You can very clearly do that on your own. You
Yeah.
can get into music on your own because you you have to make your own judgments
Hmm.
with regards to that. But football, you are told what is good and what is bad. And even though for me, I see a man get tickled and fall on the ground and pretend his kidney's fallen out, I think that's ridiculous. Apparently it's fine. Apparently it's fine. I don't get it.
Some of them, it's not a perfect sport. Obviously, I think the whole diving thing, from kind of what I know of it, just from watching football, has only really developed over kind of the last 20 or 30 years. And that's only because previously, when there wasn't as much money in football, which was before the Premier League, a lot of teams had mostly English players.
Hmm.
And then the more money that got pumped into the game by the creation of the Premier League in the early 90s and Sky Sports, it meant that we could then team could afford to scout foreign players and bring them in. Because before that, the English game was quite rough. It wasn't there wasn't as much diving. It was quite a
Okay.
tough game.
So I don't know if you ever watched wrestling when you were younger,
Yeah.
but the 90s was referred to as the attitude era of wrestling. It is when wrestling was, I would describe it as its most hype. That's when wrestling, like, honestly probably peaked. When everything was great, everyone loved it. It was kind of edgy. That's kind of how I remember football when I was very young.
Yeah.
Like early 2000s, me playing the amount of football that I did being in like year 1 or whatever in
Yeah.
primary school, but it was a rough game. Like football was not for the light-hearted,
Yeah.
and people would talk about players. Like now, I cannot imagine admiring a football player for the sport. I couldn't imagine it, but I can imagine like Michael Owen or someone. I can imagine like, oh yeah, he was great, he was a super cool guy, and he was good at the sport. Now I don't have any high regards for the sport of football.
Why do you think that is, though? Why do you think you just kind of not really taken much interest in it anymore?
My dad was never interested in football,
Yeah.
like never ever, never into it. We would like watch the World Cup,
Yeah.
but that's because England, not because of
A
fucking
team.
football. It's like no, it's
Yeah.
England, so you support England. Same reason we watch the Olympics. I don't care about the Olympics, but England.
Mm.
So like my grandparents like no interest in football. My mom obviously no interest in football. My granddad nothing. My brother nothing.
Yeah.
So I was never exposed to it. The only experience I get is from people who also aren't really interested
Yeah.
and giving their negative experiences. Like the TV presentation of football is exclusively for people who are into football. There's no easy way in. Even if I wanted to, there's no way because I think a lot of getting into something is doing your own research beforehand,
Yeah.
then coming into the fandom, as it were, or the fan base, and going, "Oh, hey, I'm new to this. Here is my knowledge. Correct me if I'm wrong." There's
Yeah.
no way to get into football other than being told by someone who's been there for like 30 years what's right and what's wrong. You don't get to pass your own opinions, really. You are told, oh, you live here, you like this team.
Kind of, yeah. Um, there is a lot of that. Obviously, 'cause I'm from Blackburn, brought up in Blackburn, but my dad and my brother were Blackburn fans, so I was a Blackburn fan. And I think there is kind of a thing behind it that if you don't support your local team, then you do kind of get like the piss taken out of you a lot by other fans. Because I know I work with guys at work, obviously, and they're like, "Oh, I'm a Chelsea fan." I'm like, you're from Preston. Why do you support Chelsea?" It's like, "Oh, I don't know. I've always been a Chelsea fan." I'm like, "Have you ever been to Chelsea? Have you been to a game? Have you had a No, I've never been to a game. Never had a season ticket. Just watched them on TV and quite liked them." They're like, "Get the fuck away from
I
me."
think that's something that I don't understand because I'm not a very competitive person at the best of times. Like even like in a fighting game or like a board game,
Yeah,
I can't be competitive unless I know I'm right. Like Monopoly, I can't be competitive unless I am winning because like I just don't understand being able to say, "Oh yeah, my team's the greatest," and then having them lose 16 times in a row and still somehow deciding they're all right. I don't get backing a shit team just because they're local. I don't understand it. Local.
it's not. It's a hard one with football because
Yeah.
you're going, "Oh well, the shit. Why would you back it?" It's like, why would you like get rid of someone because they've said some shit a couple of times? Just wouldn't. Like, I know that's not a very good thing, but I
Like
don't know. It's just
going back, say 100 years, I can understand supporting the local team because they'll only been a small team
yeah,
back. Say 100 years ago, you support your local team because they are people from your local community trying to do something fun
yeah.
for the community. Now, football is exclusively for people who like football. It's no longer a community thing. It is a football community thing.
It's a weird one. Like, look, being on the inside, seeing like the outside thing, like hearing
Yeah,
you going, "Oh, it's just a football thing." I'm like, there's no one stopping you getting involved in it. Like, literally, there is nothing stopping you going, "All right, I want to get into football. What do I need to kind of research? What do I need to know?"
that's the thing. You see it as very inclusive because you're already there. Anybody on the outside sees football as almost an impenetrable wall of like to an extent, football hooliganism, like, there's a whole thing there. Is like, no, I don't want to get into it because it has this entire like negative face to it.
Yeah.
So like, getting into something new, you need an in. Especially football, I think you need like a friend or a family member that you can go, oh, I'm like, football. What is it? What is it about it that is entertaining?
I think football's like the easiest sport to get into, especially in this
Sport,
country.
yes, 100% one of the easiest sports to get into, but it is also one of the sports that has the most negative press, which puts people off. Might be easy to actually do the thing, but for someone to decide to do it, that's an entirely different question.
I mean, one of the things that does like kind of annoy me with people that aren't into football, going, "Oh well, footballs are paid ridiculous monies, and that money, like doctors and nurses, should get paid that money." You're going, "No, no, they shouldn't. No."
I think we're towing a line that's a little dangerous of saying that doctors and nurses don't deserve to be paid more. That's an entirely different discussion.
I don't think that they shouldn't be paid more. The reason I'm saying that they shouldn't get the amount of money that footballers get is because what you've got to think with footballers is realistically the youngest that you're going to break into a first team is like 18.
Yeah.
And that's only realistically when you're going to start making money. And you've had to dedicate the last like 10 years of your life to it to get to a level that not very many people can get to.
The only justification that because I for years was a footballer shouldn't be paid that much. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And for years I was, they don't deserve it. They hardly do anything. Blah 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 blah. The only justification that I have come to is they are entertainers.
Yeah.
I do not begrudge Johnny Depp being paid what Johnny Depp is paid.
Yeah.
I don't begrudge any other actor or director or anything like that what they are paid. They are an entertainer. They are paid what is deemed appropriate.
Yeah.
One thing I don't understand, and it is sort of like on the same branch of the topic, is for years, I think we've discussed this privately, but for years and years, Blackburn Rovers have been in debt, in like massive amounts of debt. How are they still a business? Because they are a business, they're a football team, but they are a business, like, foremost.
Yeah. I honestly don't know.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. But then again, you can have businesses that are in debt. It's just whether people are willing to put the money in, the owners, to kind of like pay off the deficits. Like there has been a couple of teams recently that they just can't afford to stay afloat. Like I can't even remember what they were called. They've literally just been, the club has completely been shut down. Like, yeah, it's not a club anymore. And that happens quite a lot. Like with Rangers, they went into, they were in a lot of debt years and years ago to the point where they couldn't pay the players and all that sort of stuff. So the Scottish authorities of football over there went, right, we're going to put you in the bottom league. They literally just went, right, we're relegating you to the bottom league of Scotland. And they went, right, well, we're going to have to sell off all the players. We have to do all this, restructure everything. And then because it's like it's like the second biggest club in Scotland, they were still getting ridiculous amounts of supporters in.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, even though they're in like the bottom tier of Scottish football. Like, even the top tier of Scottish football is worse than the second tier of English football. Like, it is awful football. And yeah, it's just ridiculous. But there are teams that have just gone bust. They do go bust. It's just whether the owners are willing to pay the deficits off at the end of each season.
Yeah.
Because owning a football club, you're not going to make any money of it. You're doing it for the love of the sport. Well, you should be doing it for the love of the sport and not as like a marketing thing.
Yeah.
Because what happened with Blackburn, I think it was probably about 10 years ago now, we got new owners that bought the club, and I don't know how they were allowed to buy the club. I honestly don't know how they were allowed to buy the club. Like, then, this is how little they knew about English football. When we got relegated from the Premier League, they went, "Oh, we didn't even know that you could get relegated." Didn't know. Like, we were relatively well run. Like, we weren't hundreds of millions of pounds in debt. We, we balanced the books pretty well because our previous owner, Jack Walker, had passed away and left the club to a community trust in his name.
Yeah.
And I don't know if he left the community trust money or what, but there was a community trust and people left in charge of the club to keep it running and afloat.
Yeah.
And then when the new owners came in, they decided to sell the club to the new owners, who have now got us into £160 million worth of debt.
Oh dear.
Because they don't know anything about football.
Alright, because I also don't know anything about football. Shall we rephrase the question as to what do you get out of football? Because I get that it's probably not directly the sport.
Apart from actually like playing it, not a right lot. I think there is, like we've said, around anything that's going to be popular, there's a community behind it that we've already spoken about.
Yeah.
Yes, there is like shitty parts of that community that just use football as an excuse to go and get drunk and have a fight because it's us, that almost caveman mentality of us against them.
Yeah.
But there is kind of that just wanting something to do well because it's in your local community, which you don't get with anything else. Like, can you think of anything else within Preston that people go, I want it to do well just because it's part of my community?
That's entirely different. That's a big topic because there's literally nothing.
Yeah.
That there's no such thing. Like, honestly, I don't understand being proud of where you're from. You got the luck of the dip.
Yeah.
You just happen to be born there. I don't like. Being proud because you're from England. Like, honestly, don't get it.
Yeah, neither do I.
I can be proud of the things that England has done, but England has done a lot of things that it should not be proud of.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be like, oh yeah, well I can't be happy with where I live because of X, Y, and Z, and history is like, I haven't done those things. But
I think what like people that aren't into football don't necessarily realise as well is the effect that the club that's in that town or city can have an effect on the town or the city.
Oh yeah.
For example, where if you're a Premier League club, you get, I think even if you're like towards the bottom end of the table, you're getting like 20 or 30 million pounds just for finishing in the Premier League. And then you're getting another £100 million for the TV rights from Sky. That's a lot of money. That, yeah, I get that, a lot of it goes to the players that dedicate a lot of the time to playing it, but it also means that the club hire a lot of people within the community, and it's a lot of entertainment for the community. I mean, the one thing that Blackburn are doing quite well over the last year or two is they're starting to post a lot more on like Facebook and things to try and get people more involved in the club, which is, I think, quite good. But when we got relegated from the Premier League to the Championship, that has literally cost Blackburn hundreds of millions of pounds, which for a small town is a lot of money. Literally thousands of people lost their jobs just from getting relegated.
I think my experience of football in the past 2 years has literally been because I worked at a pub. Like, weirdly, where I worked, one of the closest pubs to PNE.
Yeah.
Like, it shouldn't be because it's like miles away. But there's just no pubs nearby, really.
Yeah.
Especially since that one, like, right around the corner shut down and got knocked down.
Yeah.
So my experience with football is, oh, is football on Wednesday? Right, we're going to be busy.
Yeah.
Like that's it. That my experience with football has been, oh, I work at a pub, football's on. We don't have TVs, but oh, we're busy now.
Yeah, because people are going to go to the game and they want to have
Yep.
a couple of drinks either before or after or both. So, yeah, if you think like with Blackburn, when I I don't really remember us in when we're in the heydays because in the mid 90s we won the Premier League. Obviously, I'm only 26, so I don't really remember that. I
Yeah.
was only a couple of months old when we won it. But
Like you were a baby born of the celebration of that fact.
well, like just before, 9 months before. But I remember is when our manager, he was called Sam Allardyce, was doing quite well in the league, and we were getting on average anywhere between 25 and 30,000 people at every home game. So it's not just like the club hiring people
Yeah.
and paying wages. It's all the pubs around the club.
Pubs, restaurants, even hotels. There's a
Yeah,
and then if somebody's staying at a hotel, that just means shops as well.
yeah.
Again,
So it's literally like the whole town can benefit. Even to like simple things like taxi drivers, things like that that now probably won't get as much work because on match day, I think we get between 12 and 15,000. So it's literally halved because we got relegated.
Yep.
So I think it is. That's some of the reasons why you do see people go, right, I'm supporting my hometown team because it does help my hometown and that's where I'm from. I think it does kind of keep you, like, because obviously I don't live in Blackburn anymore, it kind of keeps me roots there a bit in a
Yeah.
weird way because at least I've got above, obviously family, I've now got an excuse to go back to Blackburn
Yeah.
and there is something for me to do even though there's very little for me to do in Blackburn. But at least going back and following the team that
So what we're taking from this is that the actual game of football, sport, whatever you want to call it, is fairly inconsequential. It is literally everything surrounding it that is the important part.
yeah,
Like, it could be an entirely different game. Like it could just so have happened to be that basketball was the game that took off, and then it is literally everything surrounding the game rather than the actual sport itself that is the entertaining part.
yeah, and then obviously I think a big part of it as well is because I quite lucky in the northwest to have quite a lot of big teams.
Yeah.
So obviously we've got Blackburn Rovers, and then we've got Preston North End that are quite close to us, Wigan, and then we've got obviously the big teams like United and Liverpool.
Yeah.
So you do kind of like when I go into work, like I'm not only speaking to Blackburn fans, I'm chatting to Preston fans about their game of the weekend, and United fans, and Liverpool fans, and Everton fans, and fans from like loads of who follow loads of different teams. And it's like, oh, you see that over at weekend? Oh, he won such score. Oh, you see that save though, and oh, you see this part of this game, and it is. I think because there is so many teams and so many different fans, it's not just me going into work going, oh, you watched Blackburn over at weekend? Yeah. What do you think? Blah, blah, blah. It is, oh, have you watched Rovers? Have you watched this team? Have you seen that result?
Weirdly, it's one of the benefits of Preston. Because Preston, it has quite a lot of jobs that a lot of people can get to. So we get a lot of people from a lot of different places. Like there's people from Wigan who will work in Preston. There's people from like just the outskirts of Manchester that will work in Preston because we've got a good motorway. Like M6, literally the first motorway ever built, Preston bypass. Like it.
Yeah.
We had the first motorway, and we also have a good train system. Like Preston train station, it's not huge, but it's far bigger than you'd expect for Preston.
Yeah.
And you can get to pretty much anywhere, up, down, or right.
Yeah.
From Preston, you can get to a lot of places, like direct as well.
Yeah. I think that the thing that I like the most is like when you go into a game and it's like 12,000 people all trying to pull in the same direction,
Yeah.
regardless of the results and what's happened. It's right. This is the team we support, and we're going to support them regardless, and we're going to try and make some noise and get them motivated. And everyone's trying to go in the same direction. Everyone just wants the best for this thing.
Yeah.
And that's another thing that you don't really get in anything else. That
I think the only thing
thousands of-
comparable to football match would be a gig, like a music event.
yeah,
It's the only thing that's vaguely similar.
yeah, you kind of going to watch something, a performance that you want the person or the people that you're going to see just to do really well
Yeah.
for no other reason that you've been following that team or that artist or whoever it is for a long time. So there is a lot around it that the positives. Obviously, it's not great the amount of money that they're making, but another like kind of bonus for football is that I like it more than Formula One because Formula One tends to be rich people. You can only really get into Formula One as a driver if you're from a wealthy family.
Yeah.
Because the whole setup when you're growing up and to accomplish the things that you need to do, you have to come from a rich family.
Yeah.
And I think only Lewis Hamilton hasn't come from that.
Yeah.
Where the vast majority of football players have come from poor backgrounds. Like the vast majority of football players have come from working class families. Or, like, for example, you've probably heard his name recently in the news and stuff. He's called Marcus Rashford.
Oh, is he the guy that's just like amazing and is great and is the loveliest man who's ever existed and he likes poor people and everything's amazing?
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
So, Marcus Rashford was, from what I know of him, he's from a single parent background.
Yeah.
His mum raised him and his siblings. She worked like 2 jobs and tried to support herself and her kids, and so they come from quite a poor background. And he's managed to get into football and obviously now playing for one of the biggest clubs in the world. But he's recently been in the news because the Tories have stopped paying for school meals.
Yes.
From poor.
He has been shouting at. He is a rich man shouting at the government for doing bad things, which doesn't happen very often.
Yeah, but the only reason that he's kind of doing that is because he's from that background.
Yeah.
Like, he's from the background of if he didn't get them school meals growing up, he would have gone hungry.
Yeah.
And probably wouldn't have made it into football. So there is like a lot of cases in football that it is just like working class families. The kids kind of make it into football. Obviously, a lot don't, but there's, I think in the country, like possibly thousands of footballers.
That's the interesting thing about because growing up as a kid, I think every kid to some extent wants to be at the very minimum wealthy. Famous and wealthy, perhaps, but wealthy minimum. Honestly. And for a small boy growing up, strangely, being a footballer is one of the most achievable things.
Yeah.
If you actually, from the age of 9, if you know, I want to do that, that is literally the only thing I want to do. If you put yourself to it and put the effort in and learn all the tactics that you need to be a good footballer, it is an achievable goal.
Yeah.
More than a singer, because a singer, you need a base level of talent there.
Yeah.
Just underlying. Some people just can't sing and they're never going to be able to sing and they'll be awful forever. But football is it's all perfected skill.
Yeah.
I'll give them that. It is something that they have put effort into.
It's a teachable thing.
Yeah.
Where, it is something that like playing an instrument, you can go, if I practice this enough, I can get really good at this. And I think that's what clubs are kind of looking into more now, or will be doing over the next 10, 20, 30 years. Of instead of looking at, oh, that kid's quite a good player, they'll be looking at more the genetic side of things
Yeah.
and going, when he's 20, he's going to be 6'4" and really strong. We can't teach him that. That's just who he is.
Yeah.
But what we can teach him is how to play football at a really good level. But obviously, you've got to have the other quality. The other side of it is your personality.
Yeah.
Like for example, Cristiano Ronaldo is recently been the first ever footballer to become a billionaire. Now that's a lot. That I think that's just his net worth.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the guy literally never drinks alcohol. He has like a ridiculously strict diet that he doesn't go outside of. He does things like yoga so he can stay. I think there's like benefits to it, so you don't get injured as much. And his whole, literally, he's dedicating every moment of every day for like 20, 25 years to that sport. And people are going, oh, well, I don't get why they're getting paid so much. I'm like, because he's dedicated 25 years to being the best ever at something that not everybody can do. It is very hard. It is almost impossible to get to the level of football to where he's got. There's only realistically him and Messi and a couple of other players that have got to that are achieving the sort of thing that they've achieved, and that's because everything you've got to have everything that's spot on.
Yeah.
And that's why they get paid so much, because they've got so good. It is amazing to watch them doing what they're good at.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's entertaining. It's like anything else. Like a very good actor will dedicate the whole life to being very good at being an actor. The only difference is, as a player, you've got 20 years at absolute max to earn as much money as you possibly can for the rest of your life.
Yeah. Well, Gary Lineker's doing alright as a whatever. But I don't know what he does. Like
he presents.
Presenter.
Like, yeah,
well, there you go. That's what you do when you retire as a footballer.
There is stuff that you can obviously do after you retire, but that's one person that's made like a decent living after he's retired from football.
I bet you he's made more money after the fact.
He like
far more, even just from the Walkers.
Yeah, but I think what's happening more and more is, especially recently, over the last 5 or 6 years, especially, is players are starting to build a brand while playing football. So they've got something to fall back onto after they finish football, because there's only a handful of positions after you retire that you can go into and make that sort of money. Like managers, for example. There's only maybe 10 or 15 clubs in the world that will be able to pay you a lot of money as a manager. And even then, it is so easy to get sacked as a manager.
Yeah.
Them clubs seem to go through managers like every couple of seasons.
Well, you've opened my eyes up a bit as to... Because going into this conversation, for me, football is shit and I don't care. That's generally my view on football as the sport, as it is, because football, I don't care, it's shit. But you've explained more about things surrounding it that are of interest, rather than, oh yeah, the game football, oh, it's amazing, no, it's so interesting, no, all the rules are perfect and all the players are great.
Oh, they're definitely not perfect.
Yeah.
But that's one of the things that you kind of, as a football fan, you kind of love about football, because it then gives you a talking point on Monday.
Yeah.
When you go into work or when you see your mates after the game, you kind of go, oh, you see that thing that happened because of that rule that shouldn't be in place.
Yeah.
That's absolute fucking nonsense. And they go, yeah, that would daft that. I don't know why that rule's in place. Like, they've changed it this year. It's just going to place, but it's absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like, one of the things that's coming over the last year or two is VAR. So it's the video analytic referee or something.
Yeah.
Now, the actual technology behind it works fine, but just how it's being used in English football is just stupid. Because you've got people that are sitting behind like monitors, not even at the game, and watching it like 7 seconds behind or 10 seconds behind. And then when a player's like offside, they're going, "Oh yeah, they're offside by half an inch." You're going, that's a bit too. It's a bit much that there's no real advantage.
Yeah.
For that player to be offside by half an inch, or they're not. Basically, they're supposed to be like assisting the referee for decisions that he gets wrong.
Yeah.
But they're getting it wrong as well.
Yeah, it should more be referee thinks something up but didn't see it. Check in with the cameras. Like, literally just check in. Okay, I didn't see it right. Oh, it's actually this. Everything was fine.
So the whole rules around VAR are just crap at the moment. But they'll get better over the next like couple of years, and
teething problems.
They'll tinker with it and improve it and improve it and improve it until, well, they'll never get it perfect because there's a lot of rules in football that they always tinker with year on year just to kind of improve it. Some years it's worse, some years it's better. So, yeah, with football, it's not just the sport, it's the sport and everything around it.
Yeah, I think like a lot of what we talk about is it's going to boil down to, there's the thing and then there's everything surrounding the thing as well.
Yeah.
Because I think next week I'll probably talk about Dungeons and Dragons because that's a whole thing right there.
Yeah.
Also, a lot of rules that don't make any sense or are there for no reason or are there for literally one reason that it shouldn't be.
Yeah, it's strange, but I think the one thing that I definitely don't, there is things that I don't like about football, obviously. Like, I do think players are probably on a bit too much.
Oh, yeah.
Like, especially with China now. China is, like, pumping a lot of money into football right now. And I'm not 100% sure. I think it's either the government or the government have changed the rules around it. So, and that's why there's so much money in the Chinese football. I think it's something to do with the sponsors having to put so much money into the Chinese clubs, where now China's trying to get these very high-profile players from like English clubs or whatever that are coming to like towards the end of the careers, and they're still very good players. But I think Carlos Tevez is like the prime example of it. He was getting, I can't remember if it was £500,000 or £1,000,000 a week.
Ooh.
And that's just like his basic wage.
Jesus.
But that's how much money the sponsors are putting into like Chinese football clubs that they can afford to pay these high profile players like obscene amounts of money. And he wasn't even like the top 10 players in the world.
Yeah. Doesn't matter if you're top 10 in the world, all it matters if you're top 10 in China.
Yeah.
It's literally like things outside of China don't matter. They're not allowed to matter.
Yeah. Have you watched any of the South Park episodes of the most like recent series?
I haven't, no. Like I apparently the lockdown episode is great.
It's okay. It's not like the best one that they've done, but I'm watching. I think it's like season 24 or 25, like the most recent one. And like the second episode is just taking the mick out of like everyone because everyone's trying to like break into the Chinese market.
Yeah.
And one of the characters, Randy Marsh, a, like a season or two before, he set up this weed farm, and he goes over to China to break into the Chinese market to sell weed. And as he gets on the plane, like all these Disney Marvel characters get on, and like all these like different brands are trying to break the Chinese market because that's where all the money is.
Well, there's a whole thing about like it's not a good thing either. It's like trying to break into the Chinese market means you have to bend to the whim of the Chinese government.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of games that if they get any funding from China, like any Chinese corporation, you're making like a Western-inspired RPG where there's going to be like magic and all this, no skeletons.
Yeah, it's
China
weird.
doesn't like skeletons. Skeletons aren't allowed. Like they're in Avengers Endgame. There is a gay kiss, which great, love it, whatever. It's not the Chinese one.
It's just so random, isn't it? Like how big corporations will just bend to the whim of a country because that's what they want.
There's a lot of money there. There's a lot of untapped money that if you can even just get a bit of it, you're fine. But it means that every other version of your product has to suffer for it.
Yeah, I get what you mean. But yeah, like I was saying, he want ridiculous money, just basic as well. Because we like players, what they tend to do. I only know this because I play Football Manager, and obviously, if you're interested in sport, you kind of get to know it a bit. But because I play Football Manager, I get to know it a bit more.
Yeah,
is that like you get your basic wage regardless of how well you do.
Yeah.
And then you get bonuses on top of that. So if you score a goal, you get so much. If you get an assist, even down to the point of if you there's like bonuses that they can have added on, where if they're on the bench and don't get played, they get a bonus.
Yeah,
And it's to encourage the club to play them if they're on the bench.
That's the whole contract of before buying a player is you have come to an agreement with that player and the club they're already with to transfer them over with their new agreements.
Yeah. And I can't remember what he's called. I've not seen him on TikTok for ages, but there's a guy that I follow. He does a lot of talks, and he's basically a lawyer, but got into like becoming like a sports lawyer. So he kind of represents the legal side for players.
Yeah.
Players themselves, and then they've got their agent that kind of does some of the negotiations for the player.
Yeah.
And then they've got like a lawyer there as well for all the legal side of things.
Yeah, an agent will make negotiations. A lawyer will make them ironclad.
Yeah.
Yeah, an agent will give you ideas, and then the lawyer will make it a contract and make sure it's adhered to.
Pretty much. But yeah, he talks about like a lot of the stuff that like players work into like contracts, and they're just absurd.
Yeah, well, they will be.
Like, not even like anything that's realistically going to happen. Like, I can't remember which player it was. I don't actually think he said which player it was, but like it was like something to do with aliens. It's just like, well, why would you add that in there?
Just in case, mate.
Just in case. And I'm reading also about, well, I said reading. I'm listening to the audible recording of the autobiography of a guy called Matt Jansen that used to be a Blackburn Rovers player.
Oh, okay.
And that's like quite insightful because I listen to a lot of autobiographies from like managers and players and talk quite a lot about the mental side of things.
Yeah.
And I think the more interesting ones was actually Steven Gerrard.
Yeah.
So you won't know much about Steven Gerrard.
I know his name.
You know
That's
his name.
literally it. His hair's brown, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
He's had the same haircut for the last 30 years.
Yeah.
But he played for Liverpool, and they hadn't won. They won the Premier League last season, but they hadn't won the Premier League for like the top flight of football for like 30 years.
Yeah.
Back in the 80s, they literally won everything.
Yeah.
They were winning everything pretty much every year. They were dominating football. And when Steven Gerrard is a Scouser, so he grew up in Liverpool
Yeah.
and went through the youth system, played for the reserves, and eventually got to play for the first team. He spent the vast majority of his career there. I think he only had like maybe 1 or 2 seasons where he didn't play for them because I think towards the end of his career he went over to America. But one of the seasons where they were very close to winning the Premier League, this was a few years ago. He had the team like huddled round after a game. He was like, right, no slip ups, no slip ups now. We've got to win it. No slip ups. Literally, I think it was like 2 games after they were playing Chelsea, and he miscontrolled the ball and literally slipped over. And one of the Chelsea strikers got the ball and scored, and they ended up not winning the league. And he talks about that a lot in the book.
Yeah.
He literally had to go to therapy for it.
Yep.
Like,
there was a whole thing. There was I think it was like 2005 Olympics or whenever it was around then the Olympics. There was I think she was an Australian swimmer who doing the laps. She finished a solid 30 seconds before anybody else.
Okay.
So she I think she started to get out the pool, and then some of her mates tackled her back in to celebrate that she'd won by such a massive margin. She got disqualified.
Jesus.
She got disqualified because she tried to get out, and then other people went in as well that could mess up the other participants.
Yeah.
She killed herself because she got disqualified. That's how bad the pressure of sports can be.
Yeah, it is bad. And the book, it basically went. I can't remember what the psychologist's name is, but he referred him to a book that I've listened to on Audible. If you give me a second, I'll get it up because I think it's like the Chimp Paradox or something like that. It's called, and he refers to this book a little bit in his autobiography.
Yeah,
and it kind of talks a lot. Yeah, the Chimp Paradox it's called. So it kind of talks a lot about how the brain works and how you have these kind of like 2 different systems in your brain.
Yeah.
So the it's like your brain split into almost 2. So you've got the chimp side of things, which it controls all your emotions and all that side of things, and then I think in the book it referred to it as the PC, like the computer side of things, which controls all your logic and everything like that.
Yeah.
And this book really helped me, kind of understand my thought process after that.
It's I know that you've spoken to me before about how you can be quite an anxious person.
Yeah.
There is something to be said for being able to go, I am feeling this way, and now I understand why I'm feeling this way.
Yeah.
Logically, this makes no sense.
Yeah.
I understand everything that has led me up to feeling this way. That's fucking stupid.
Yeah. And it shouldn't make...
Sometimes you can shake yourself out of it. You can just sort of go, wait, no, that's fucking stupid, never mind.
Yeah.
Half the time it doesn't work.
I often find with my anxiety and stuff though, the only way I can not overcome it, but I know it's probably a really bad way of dealing with it, but I just have to distract myself from it.
No, it's because I think with anxiety, there's you're not gonna be able to think yourself out of it.
Yeah.
especially if it's like a really, really bad one, you are not going to be able to logically talk yourself out of being worried.
Yeah.
You have to distract yourself until you think back and go, oh yeah, I was worried about that earlier, but forget it.
I find with myself though that I get anxious literally about nothing. I'll just have that anxious feeling. It won't necessarily be over anything. I'll just be like, for example, I'll be sat at work. I think I'm not really anxious. I don't know why. I'm just sat here.
Honestly, like I know we spoke like a month or so ago, and I was like, oh, I'm never really that anxious, but just like the past couple of weeks, like I've been fucked.
Yeah.
No, just I think waking up to the feeling of dread, just for no reason.
Yeah. I find if I don't have anything to do, for example, there'll be periods at work where I don't have anything to do.
Yep.
Well, I find it really easy just to phase out and just kind of not necessarily even daydream, just kind of phase out and just like stare into the distance. And now like kind of come to a bit and think, wow, I feel quite anxious. And at that point, I
Yep.
think I have to talk to someone. I have to I have to focus on something else to get rid
Yeah.
of that feeling.
So I've been because I've had like literally nothing to do for almost the past week. Like nothing to do, so there's nothing to distract me from the overwhelming feeling of nothing.
Yeah,
Like I think I've said to you that I had a really bad breakup like 4.5 years ago, to the
yeah,
point where I had no emotions for a very long time. Just like I could enjoy stuff, but that was the extent. It was enjoyment or neutral. Those were my two.
2 months.
Those were my two feelings. It was neutral or kind of enjoying myself. There was no happiness. It was, in fact, distraction. That'd be it. It was neutral or distraction,
Yeah,
and that'd be it. Only recently have I gotten to the point where I'm feeling emotions again. Like even like the strange joy of going, oh, I'm fucking depressed right now. At least it's something.
Jesus.
Yeah, that's not a fun one.
No, that's definitely not. I'm gonna have. I don't know what I'm gonna do. I honestly don't know what I'm gonna do next week. Like, I think I've got like 2 or 3 games that I haven't completed on my PlayStation.
Yeah.
But above and beyond that, like I can only sit and play for so long on my PlayStation before I need to get like do something.
Honestly, like I went for a walk today and I was really sad the entire walk, but I wasn't anxious about anything.
I don't know if that's a bonus or not.
I was sad because it was cold and there were other people about and I wanted to be alone.
Jesus. Yeah, like I don't know. Literally, I've got a couple of games that I can play. Maybe the odd bits and bats that I can watch on like Netflix and Amazon,
Yeah.
and then I just distract myself with my phone, going on like TikTok and stuff. It's weird.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what I have watched recently though that was good.
Hmm?
Cobra Kai. And I think that is literally aimed at like people, maybe like the youngest of like similar age to us, to maybe 35 or 40, kind of.
I think it's mostly aimed at people who watch the Karate Kid.
Yeah. Or remember it coming out, or like most likely like
Yeah.
us that are a bit younger that have kind of gone back and watched them films from the 80s.
I haven't. I still haven't seen. I saw the Jaden Smith Karate Kid that was dog shit, but I have not seen the original one now. It's something that I do need to watch.
I would say go back and watch them. From what I can remember, the first one was decent.
Yep.
Second one, I can't remember. I can only remember 2 out of the 3 films.
Yeah.
Like the first one was good. I can't remember if it was the second or third one that they go to China or Japan.
Hmm.
And that one was okay. But the other one I can't remember. And I think there is a fourth one, but that was dog shit.
Yeah.
Because it kind of doesn't have that I can't even remember what the main guy is called in it. The dog guy.
Dan. I think it's Daniel, but
Yeah, Danielson.
yeah.
He wasn't in the last one. It was like a young girl,
Yeah.
and it was awful.
Yeah.
But I do kind of like going back to like 80s films, even though they are a bit shit. I find the ones that I enjoy the most are a bit shit.
It's being able to go back and notice trends
Hmm.
and notice the trends of the time, because currently it's a bit harder to notice them as they're recurring, but like things are different. Like the 90s films were all grungy and edgy and like just darker, not
Yeah.
necessarily in tone, just like actual color. It's when like half the Batman films happened, and
Yeah.
I think it was the Burton Batman films happened in the 90s, Night Before Christmas, like Hackers. I'm sure Hackers was 90s. Yeah, it was just like you go through trends, and the 80s was great for dumb action films and films about teenagers.
Yeah. Like Aliens. I quite like that just because it is a bit shit.
But Aliens is a very, very good film. Like,
It's good, but kind of like when you watch it, you're going, it is a little bit shit. Or at least I do. I go,
yeah,
like, especially like the CGI stuff. You go, that is mega shit. But
yeah,
that's like
yeah.
the times. But just other stuff that you go, you kind of watch and you go, yeah, that was a bit shit.
However, Jurassic Park is still perfect. Like, actually faultless. That film.
I haven't watched it for years, to be honest.
You need to rewatch it. Because there is some like computer generated stuff, but the like majority of stuff in that film is practical effects. Still looks great.
Yeah, I think what did I watch recently? Yeah, it's a good film, but it's a little bit shit with the CGI and stuff.
Dated,
Godzilla.
like the 2000s one.
Yeah, I like.
Well, it's just awful all round.
I actually quite like it. I like it because it is a little bit shit.
It's not good. I won't even agree. No, it's not good. Entertaining, even still mostly no. But I will watch it.
That's what I mean, though. It's not a great film, but it's watchable. Little bit shit.
It's more than a little bit shit. It's really shit.
No,
it's a bad film.
I'm not having that. It's very shit.
No, it is. It's really
little
awful.
bit shit.
It's a terrible film.
What else have I watched really? Actually, what I have watched recently, and I didn't have a choice, was Sharknado. Now that was that shit that it came back
That's
around
intended
again.
to be shit. Like there's an intent.
Yeah.
It's on Sci-Fi. It is designed with shit in mind.
Yeah.
The epitome of films that are really, really fun, but they are a bit shit, is Evil Dead 2.
I don't know if I've watched that one.
Evil Dead 1 is about the character Ashley J. Williams and a few of his friends that go to a cabin in the woods. They find the Necronomicon, they read a bit of it, and all of a sudden spooky doings start happening.
Okay.
Similar to how The Room happened, the film came out and people see it as a bit more of a comedy than probably expected. Because the first one is, like, I'd say 70%, 75% horror film.
Yeah.
25% is a little bit funny. Evil Dead 2 is a remake of Evil Dead 1, but funny.
Okay.
Actively funny. Like, its intent is they ramp up the shit a bit more.
Yep.
That is the epitome of film that is a little bit shit, but it's good because it's shit.
What film? Other films that have the most recent It.
Chapter 1 or Chapter 2?
Chapter 1.
Yep.
That was comically shit.
No, I think it was just good. I think it had its. The only bit that I remember that happens in the in Chapter 1 that is dumb is like the scene where I think one of them is being chased by just like a hobo clown. Like that bit, and then he gets vomited in the face. That bit's dumb. But the rest of the film, it's solid, it's good.
No, I like this. Isn't scary at all. Actually, it's kind of funny.
Half of that, honestly, half of that is I think the music, the musical prompts. They just don't land.
Yeah,
Like there's the scene with the black kid, and there's the shutters being lifted, and Pennywise is just stood in the background.
yeah,
Like there's a whole scene like down like an alleyway. The music there is going meh, 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 trying to just like scream at you to be scared. But if they put like tense music building up to the shutters being fully open, and then you see the scary stuff in the background, that could have really worked. I think a lot of people miss that music's actually really important in films.
yeah.
Like,
No, I didn't find it scary at all. I actually found it comically funny.
yeah,
And the second one was just even more ridiculous
yeah,
to the point where some bits weren't actually funny
I enjoyed them
because
well
it
enough.
was
I
just like
thought
they were decent films, but they weren't scary at all.
I feel there aren't many good horror films coming out nowadays. Not
I'm not massive.
honestly, not in the past. Like I could probably count the amount of good horror films in the past 20 years on like two hands at most.
There's honestly only been, I think, one or two horror films that I have watched, and after watching it, I've gone, "That's good. That's left lasting side effects on me."
Yeah,
I think the Exorcism of Emily Rose. I think I watched that
yeah,
when I was relatively young.
yeah,
I remember watching it with my older brother, who I didn't go to a Church of England school, but he did.
yeah,
So he could explain a lot more of the religious background to stuff. I remember that scaring me a lot growing up. I think the other one was The Grudge.
yeah.
I watch back and think it's not as scary now, but I think there were elements of that where I was just terrified by bits of it growing up. Like I think it's early on, like in the first 10 or 20 minutes when she goes into the house of the woman that she's looking after,
Yep.
and it's just like kind of in the top corner of the room. That terrified me as a kid. Well, I say as a kid,
I
as
think
a teenager.
there's a whole like argument about are jump scares scary? Like because movies of the past like 10 years, and when I say this, I probably actually mean a bit earlier. I'm thinking Paranormal Activity films around that time
Yeah,
where they were jump scares. That's what the films were. It was
yeah,
jump scare, jump scare, jump scare, jump scare. That's the premise of the film is jump scares with stuff in between.
yeah,
But if there aren't any jump scares in a film, it's not scary. It can be tense, but
yeah,
it's not scary. The jump scare is a thing that makes you go, oh, and your adrenaline goes, and then you calm down and you laugh at yourself for being stupid.
yeah.
Like I remember I saw Woman in Black at cinema, and I quite enjoyed it. It came out when I was like 15. Went to go see it. It was fine. It was solid.
I don't think I watched that in cinemas, but I have seen it.
It built up tension better than a lot of other ones did. Like
Yeah,
Paranormal Activity was you are watching the screen and waiting for something to change. So that's where the tenseness comes. It's you're projecting yourself like you are making yourself psych yourself out.
yeah,
You're doing everything, the film's doing very little. Woman in Black had eerie moments in it where it was doing all the work. I didn't have to try and psych myself into being scared because I'm watching like a flat image and waiting for something to change. I'm watching a scene play out, looking in the background, things are building up.
yeah.
Oh no, spooky ghost. Like there's just more effort put into it.
Mm.
Paranormal Activity did a lot of good stuff for that kind of film, but
Even then, I remember going to watch the first Paranormal Activity in the cinema, and I don't remember coming out thinking that's absolutely terrifying me.
no, because you're constantly getting little scares.
Yeah,
You're constantly going, oh no, that chair moved, that's kind of spooky. Oh no, the woman got dragged out of bed, that's not fun. You're not invested.
yeah. I think with that, I think it's in the very last moments of the film where she goes. I think it actually might be one of the very last scenes where I think she's been fully possessed by then, and she kind of like stands by the bed and then goes downstairs,
Yeah. Oh
and
yeah,
then
yeah, yeah. I
and then
remember now.
I think she screams, and he like startles awake
Yeah.
and kind of like scrambles out of bed. Well, me and my mate that went to watch it thought it was hilarious.
Yeah, it's Woman in Black, like the entire film, it's like kind of spooky. Stuff happens. There's a few jump scares.
Yeah,
They do get you, and there's a build up towards the end where it's like something happens, and
yeah,
you're like, oh, and then it leaves you thinking about stuff
yeah,
rather than me going back to like, oh, that scene where she stood up, that was spooky.
yeah.
Instead, you thought, oh, the ending to that film was quite interesting. There was a lot of build up. Oh, there's all this stuff going on. And Woman in Black's not a good example. It's just I haven't seen many good horror films in the past like 10 years. Honestly, the past 20 years, there's not been many great ones.
I don't think it can really be classed as a horror film, but it's definitely more of a thriller. What's it called? Where it's like one day a year where they get
The Purge.
The Purge. That's it. I think that is possibly one of the better ones.
Yeah, so Purge 1, I don't think is a good film for what they set out to do at all. Is it an okay film? Yeah, it's fine. Is it what it set out to be? No, not at all. It's a safe house film.
Yeah, I think I do really like the idea, especially across what is it now, like 3 or 4 films.
4 films, yeah. 4 films and 2 TV series.
I think I've watched 2 or 3 of the films. I've not watched any TV programs, but it is a brilliant concept.
Oh yeah, great concept. The first film does not do it justice. The first film remove the whole premise of oh you're allowed to commit crimes on this one day. It makes like no difference on the film.
Yeah.
Whereas the second film, solid, really interesting. Each character in that film has an interesting concept. Like the 2 girls in it, whose dad is dying and sells himself to a rich family so that his daughters get paid. That's really interesting. That's their premise in that film.
Yeah.
All they have to do is survive the night and they're pretty much set for life.
Yeah, I can't remember which ones I've watched. I've definitely watched the first one where it's about the rich family, and obviously it's just right. We're going to live in a bunker.
Yeah, it's a safe house film. It's not nearly as interesting as other stuff you can do.
I think the only other one that I really remember is the talking about. I think it must have been like the 4th one where they talk where it finally gets ended and they stop the purge.
Right. You know how earlier you were talking about VAR?
Yeah.
That's what one of the series is about. Okay. One of the series, in like episode 1 or 2, there's this group of, I think they're policemen, who rob a bank on purge night, because you're allowed to do it.
Yep.
They drop one of the bags, and this one guy runs in to go get it. They check the government check the CCTV later. Oh no, he was still on bank property as he was holding the bag. He can get done for it.
So
the rest of them are fine. He can get done for it.
So, sorry, explain that again. Because he's on bank.
He was on bank property as the last alarm went.
Right.
Meaning that it was now illegal again. 1 guy out of 4 gets done for it.
Interesting.
Super interesting. Purge number 1. It's a bunker film. It's not interesting.
It's a bunker where people break in and kill people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just not an interesting concept. But the series, super cool. Super interesting.
Yeah, but yet again, like it, I don't know. I don't even know if you could class it as a horror or a thriller or whatever it's. But even in like the first one, there is like laughable moments where you think, that's ridiculous. That's actually quite funny. It might just be me being a bit fucking twisted in the head, but like there is legit, even in like stuff like that that's supposed to be terrifying. it is quite funny. The only one that I think really kind of landed home with me that didn't make me jump. Well, not make me jump, but not make me laugh. Like I said, the Exorcism of Emily Rose. I think if I rewatched The Grudge, there'd probably be moments in
Oh yeah,
that
no,
where I
it's
think
honestly it's hilarious. It's laughable.
it's probably very dated.
I watched, like, I think it was the first half term of high school. I watched a lot of horror films. I borrowed them off my dad. So I watched Jeepers Creepers 1, Jeepers Creepers 2, Poltergeist, Exorcist, and a few others. I just watched
Yeah.
a load back to back because it was something to do, like,
Yeah.
in half term holidays. And, like, the older ones, they're written really well,
Yeah.
and they try their best with the production quality that they have.
Yeah.
Now, people think they can just get away with it looking good. And
Yeah.
it looks infinitely better. Like, it looks great, but it's something about the older films is because it had to be practical effects. You had to think about how they did it, and because you mentally know that that is literally a physical thing that they have done, you're taken a bit more aback by it, and you
Yeah.
think, oh, that's actually kind of spooky because they've done a really good job, and
Yeah.
because you know it's a physical, real thing. Now with CG, you look at, oh, it's a spooky CG monster.
Yeah.
Good job, boys.
I think the only one that actually scared the shit out of me at the time, and it wasn't even the film that scared me. So at my dad's old house, I was in my brother's room, and where the bed is here, basically the TV's off in like the left hand corner of
Yeah.
where you sat, and directly to your left there was a window, obviously a window ledge, and I just made myself a cup of tea, and I can't remember which one film I watched. It like I think it was Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yeah.
It was building up to like one of the moments in the film where he's like obviously going to come out and kill someone and all that sort of stuff. So the music's on, and this I think it was in like around Halloween, so like it was quite. I think it must have been like about 9 or 10 o'clock when I was watching it, so it was quite
Getting
dark.
dark early, yeah.
And because my brother's room was at the back of the house, on the ground floor, the kitchen went out further than the house.
Yep. Yeah.
And I turned round to pick up my brew, and there were a cat on top of the kitchen. And as you can imagine, all I can see are its eyes, like that greeny colour. Absolutely shit myself. Brew everywhere.
Gone.
Just
Brew
everywhere.
fucking gone.
Absolutely shit myself. I think that's possibly the most terrified that I've ever been by a film, and it wasn't even the film that scared me.
All right.
It was a cat.
As a last point, then, I think actual solid film that if you haven't seen, you should do is Quiet Place.
I don't think I have not. No, I've not. I've not watched it.
That is it's nearly a horror. It's really, really close to being a horror film. But it's just really, really tense. Like the entire film.
Is that the one with Jim out of the US office?
It is the one with Jim out of the US office. Very good film. Like,
not to, obviously diminish obviously all the work he's done, but he will always be known as kind of Jim out of the office.
But, Quiet Place, solid film. It is. Like, I think honestly, for the past 10 years, it's, even though I don't class it as a horror film because it's not scary enough.
Yeah.
It's whereas a normal horror film would have build up to a jump scare, and then you kind of chill out from there. Quiet Place has build up to monster emerging and then skulking around sniffing, nearly finding you. So it's not a jump scare, it's that kind of moment where you go and hold your breath for a minute, and then it's gone and you go, oh, right, I can let go again. It's a moment of really just high tension and then release, rather than and getting over it. That's the difference.
There were a game that were released that were kind of like that. I I can't remember what it's called. I actually downloaded it and played like the
Until Dawn.
Is it Until Dawn?
It was
With
Until Dawn.
I think so. Yeah, it's with the main character is him out of The Walking Dead.
Oh
The-
no, you're thinking of Death Stranding.
Yes.
Death Stranding. Yeah,
That's similar
yeah.
to that.
Yeah, kind of.
I've not really played a lot of that game.
I don't think you'd like it. I honestly, I have watched the entire thing in detail. I don't think you'd like it.
I think I did like the first one or two missions, and the only thing that like kind of pissed me off is like the majority of the missions are, I'm just gonna run to this place.
Literally all of it. That's the game. The game is run and drop things off. You are Amazon Prime. You deliver.
Yeah, I'm just gonna fucking run this place, and then invisible shit's gonna torture me.
Right. I think we'll leave it there.
Yeah, I finished.
Football is still shit, but I understand more now.
You like it, you dislike it slightly less.
Yeah. I do not have the strong aversion to football that I once had.
I don't think anybody could probably convince you otherwise.
No.
I think that's just it. But we'll talk about Dungeons and Dragons next week.
Yes.
I probably won't take it up no matter what you say, but we'll see.
Yeah, fair. Right, bye.
See you in a bit.
Bye.